Well, good morning, everybody. What a crazy week of news. And it's only Wednesday. Obviously, we got a few more days to come throughout this week, but lots of big companies that are in the news that doesn't happen every single week that you have this kind of news. But essentially, one of the pieces of things that are in the news today is BNSF. They are actually to pay truckers $75 million, and they are a railroad giant. And BNSF has settled an actual class action lawsuit for tens of millions of dollars, and it's resolving accusations that they violated Illinois' privacy laws. And the lawsuit, filed by a group of over 46,500 truckers, claimed the BNSF collected their fingerprints without proper consent. This sounds like something a corporation would do. The initial jury verdict in October of 2022 required BNSF to pay $228 million, equaling $5,000 per affected driver. However, this amount was later overturned, and the final settlement was reached on February 26th, and it involves BNSF paying a significantly reduced amount, but still substantial, to the sum of $75 million as a whole. And according to the lawsuit, BNSF implemented a system requiring truck drivers entering the Chicago area rail yards to submit their fingerprints for identification purposes. The lawsuit argued that the BNSF did fail to obtain written permission from the drivers before collecting and storing their biometric data. Now, who's to say that they haven't been doing this everywhere we go? I mean, we're in that kind of world right now where everything's kind of, hey, good morning, Mr. Tom Bell. Respect to you, midlife trucker. But and follow him, guys, midlife trucker. If you guys watch this video, who's to say they aren't collecting this data from us? Who's to say that this isn't happening, right? In all kinds of various areas. Some other things that are in news is another larger name, one that you've heard obviously in the United States as well, Family Dollar. So Family Dollar had a rat infestation, and it was a rat-infested warehouse, and it actually has led to a $41 million fine. And so the Family Dollar stores, which is owned by Dollar Tree, has agreed to pay a fine of $41.6 million for knowingly storing, of course, corporations, and shipping food, cosmetics, drugs, and medical devices from a warehouse in Arkansas that was infested with rodents for several years, actually. And the company's actions resulted in a misdemeanor charge of debasing FDA-regulated products by holding them in unsanitary conditions. So the issue came to light when the FDA conducted an inspection in 2022. However, the problem stretches back even further, with court records revealing that select stores receiving products from the Arkansas facility reported mouse and pest infestations with deliveries as early as August 2020. And the court documents detail that this warehouse supplied over 400 Family Dollar stores across Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and also Tennessee. So if you're from one of those states and have recently shopped at Family Dollar stores, there's a good chance that your stuff was touched by a rat, respectively. So hopefully there's some ease to that, but doesn't look too shiny from that perspective either. Some other things that are in the news as well. So you probably heard of Convoy shutting down. That's not the news. However, Ikea and Convoy are in a little bit of a match right now. So the Ikea Corporation has actually filed an interpleader lawsuit seeking guidance on who should receive payments for freight services amidst the fallout from the collapse of the digital freight broker Convoy back in October of 2023, just a few months back. So the lawsuit actually names Convoy, dozens of carriers, and other parties like venture capital lender Hercules Capital as defendants, and essentially asking the court to decide who is the rightful claim to IKEA's payments. And the case stems from freight shipments arranged between IKEA and Convoy in October of 2023. So just prior to Convoy's collapse or ceasing of operations back on October 19th, Convoy contracted with carriers to transport IKEA goods, but never paid them. So Convoy also defaulted on loans from Hercules Capital, who took control of Convoy's accounts receivable stuff. So who gets paid is kind of the question here. So IKEA was prepared to pay Convoy, but Convoy's contract stipulated they could only receive payment after fully compensating their subcontractors. With carriers still unpaid, IKEA has refused payment to Convoy and filed a suit amidst competing demands from carriers and, of course, Hercules Capital. Now, in this plays a role as well Flexport. And Flexport, as you know, is a digital ocean freight forwarder, so to speak. So the lawsuit does a little bit complicate things by noting that Convoy was recently sold, and they recently sold their assets, including its digital platform, to freight forwarder Flexport. And despite a presumed capital infusion, Flexport has also not addressed outstanding payments to carriers. However, IKEA argues that since carriers were barred from invoicing them under Convoy's contract, neither Convoy nor Flexport are necessarily obligated to pay carriers before receiving payment themselves. If we look at this, again, side note, if we look at this from an ethical perspective, pay the carriers, man, pay the drivers. These are owner operator guys that are just trying to make a living. Like, I don't see why is this so difficult. With competing perspectives, of course, on who holds responsibility, IKEA deposited $519,254 in disputed payments with the court and seeks guidance on distribution of these funds. But carriers impacted continue to demand answers and compensation. Of course, I would too. If I ran a load in that period of time with them and wasn't paid, I would do the same thing. The situation does look at and shines light on the financial risks small trucking company providers face when working with digital freight brokers relying on venture capital, as well as the messy, of course, aftermath when those structures do collapse, like in this example of Convoy just shutting the doors. Convoy was just relaunched. It was just relaunched under Flexport. The relaunch was announced by Flexport CEO Ryan Peterson, and it highlighted that nearly 200 loads were dispatched on that platform, but it evaded all questions concerning the numerous carriers left unpaid during Convoy's previous operations. And Midlife Trucker says the federal bankruptcy trustee will have to decide who gets paid. Exactly, and hopefully the truckers do, man. Like I every time in the U.S. and Canada when these type of things happen, it's always folks that are behind the wheel, guys that are running. Like, I understand how difficult it is. I ran my own trucks for a very long time. I understand that payments matter. Cash flow matters. Having liquid cash in your hands to pay for just fuel alone, let alone all the other things, right? All the other maintenance required things, all the other regulation things, the IRP plates, the insurance, truck payments, trailer payments, you name it. Like, keep going down the list. Convoy's founder, now that he's at Flexport now, celebrates the technology's return as well. But yet these concerns persist among carriers regarding outstanding payments. Everybody is silent on this. You know, it's like, don't ask, don't tell. It's absolutely crazy. But Ryan Peterson, who is the CEO of Flexport, he put on an X, it's a tweet, an X, whatever you want to call it. He said, we brought back some of the biggest customers, and on our first day live, we successfully dispatched almost 200 full truckloads to our driver network for them. a home run in the first inning. Also, a problem of mine. Why are you guys working with Convoy again? These guys just pulled the rug from underneath you. Why is anyone again working with these guys? There's plenty of freight elsewhere. There's ways that you can go about it getting your own customers. You don't have to work with these goons. This is brutal the way they treat truckers and families and stuff. Dan Lewis, or is it Dan Lewis or whatever his name is, the Convoy CEO guy, and Ryan Peterson from Flexport. These guys don't care, man. They're just smiling in front of a camera and thinking it's okay to steal money from hardworking people. Oh, my hearts break. Your hearts don't break. You guys don't care about the trucker. But do the right thing. Do the right thing. You're going to make your money. You guys are going to be billionaires anyways. Just do the right thing, man. In addition to all of this, Convoy hasn't filed bankruptcy. Okay? Well, at least not yet. And despite Convoy's failure to pay some carriers and its own workers, the company remains operational and recently, like I said, sold its technology assets to Flexport. And this does pale in comparison to Convoy's previous valuation, but could potentially address outstanding carrier payments. Questions do linger regarding Convoy's failure to fulfill financial obligations despite capital infusion and despite the sale of assets. In addition to all this, when we look at Ikea's contract rate, there is a recent analysis done of the Ikea and digital freight broker Convoy's relationship there, and it sheds light on carrier pay rates. The agreement offered rates that consistently surpassed average spot market prices, okay, for the same lanes in October of 2023. So October 2023, spot average rates, if we look at a lane like Lebec, California over to Portland, Oregon, it's about an 890-mile trip. The spot average rate was $2.87 per mile. The Ikea and Convoy contract rate on that was $3.35. Okay. The difference between the two is 17%. However, when they did, and then again, here, another one, let's just use another one for example. Columbus, Ohio to Joliet, Illinois, about 318 miles. Spot was $2.20 and $3.53 was the contract rate. Okay, about a 60% difference. The analysis also suggests that brokers like Convoy may typically retain around 15% of the spot market rate. And interestingly, some lanes in the contract offer nearly 80% more than the carrier lane average. Okay, for example, Merriam, Kansas, going over to Joliet, Illinois, 483 miles. Okay, the spot market was $1.87 and the contract was $3.34. 78% difference. Okay, and this is potentially indicating that there are significant profit margins by Convoy in these as well. Well, based on just a single contract and assumptions, it does offer definite possibilities. They suggest that even in October of 2023, securing high carrier rates, sometimes exceeding $4 a mile, remained achievable through contract agreements as well. Okay, so it's wild times right now for everybody, obviously for the owner operator as well. But we'll see where all this goes. I don't know. Another big name in the news is Walmart. Okay, Walmart, you guys probably heard they did ease delivery demands. So Walmart did relax its strict requirements for on-time and complete deliveries. The new standards, effective actually already immediately, require suppliers to meet on-time deliveries of 90% of the time and complete deliveries in full 95% of the time. And this actually represents a decrease from the previous demanding 98% benchmark for both metrics, which was implemented in 2020 during a surge in customer demand. Okay, so Walmart is obviously in the news as well when it comes to this kind of stuff. And also, this latest change comes as Walmart returns to more normal ordering patterns after years of struggling with sharp fluctuations in stocking levels during the pandemic. And the greater equilibrium in supply chains has helped relieve pressure on suppliers as well. So we'll see how that all works. If that's a sigh, a sigh of relief for carriers as well. Just some news because you guys should know. We just talked about Convoy, a freight forwarder called Boateng Logistics or Boateng Logistics, Boateng Logistics. They're a California-based freight forwarder out of Carlsbad. They actually filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy on February 22nd. And the company did report assets of up to $50,000 against liabilities, ranging from $1 million to $10 million. Okay, so you guys are hopefully aware of that as well in case you have some outstanding bills there. Judging off of Convoy, you may know where that's going to lead as well. Also, there has been a Jones violation as well. So 2 companies actually in Alaska's seafood shipping industry have to pay a $9.5 million fine to the U.S. in settlement for the Jones Act violation. So the 2 companies in Alaska did recently settle this lawsuit challenging penalties and fines levied by U.S. CBP, Customs and Border Protection, for violating the Jones Act, a law that requires merchandise be transported by U.S. flagged vessels between U.S. ports. Okay, so an exception to the U.S. flagged vessel requirement allows seafood from Alaska to be transported to the mainland U.S. if it travels via Canadian rail. But the company challenged the penalties and fines in the U.S. District Court of Alaska, saying they did not violate the Jones Act while transporting seafood from Alaska to the mainland U.S. because it was transported by Canadian rail. But according to court documents, KIF, which is a Kloosterboer International Forwarding and Alaska Reefer Management, LLC, which is ARM or ARM, they arrange transportation-related services to move frozen seafood from Alaska to the East Coast via maritime shipping. For over a decade, though, the companies moved seafood from Dutch Harbor, Alaska, to a port in New Brunswick, Canada, on foreign flagged vessels. Once in Canada, KIF arranged for the seafood to be offloaded from the vessel onto the trucks in the port. The trucks were then driven onto a flatbed rail car on the Bayside Canadian Railway, which is BCR, a roughly 100-foot length of railroad track located entirely within the port of Bayside, where they rode the length of the rail and back before being driven off the train cars and proceeding directly to the border crossing in Maine for final transport to the mainland U.S. The BCR was specifically built and exclusively used to move seafood in this manner, so the companies could claim they met the Canadian rail exception to the Jones Act. Surprise, corporations being very, very wise and creative. The CBP did begin investigating the companies and their use of foreign flagged vessels to transport merchandise in this manner, including the BCR. Investigators determined the companies were in violation of the Jones Act before using the BCR did not meet the Canadian rail exception, and CBP issued numerous penalty notices to KIF and other companies involved in the shipping route. And the companies responded with a lawsuit against the federal government, claiming they did not violate the Jones Act and that the penalties were unlawful. Okay? It's exactly. Midlife Trucker says, sounds like a loophole that didn't work. Hey, sometimes things don't go as planned, and they run into a little bit of a wall, and they have to pay these fines. The fine's a little bit light if you think about it. If all the small guys have to participate in this Jones Act, hey, how about the big boys? Big boys too. You know, if this is going to be a democracy and this is going to be, the way we're supposed to run a country, well, corruption shouldn't work for big boys and little boys, right? So, and this settlement agreement was finalized between the companies and the U.S. in January of this year, 2024. And the agreement requires KIF and Alaska Reefer Management, Resource Management, to pay $9.5 million to the U.S. The companies also stopped using the BCR to transport seafood to the US after this ruling. And this is actually the second largest settlement of a case brought under this Jones Act in the history of the US. And that was said by Attorney General Lane Tucker for the District of Alaska. Our prosecutors, as he quoted, and law enforcement partners did a tremendous job successfully investigating and litigating this complex case. Our office will continue to dedicate resources to ensuring the laws in place to protect fair maritime commerce are followed by all industries in Alaska. Okay, so again, another thing in the news that's worth of note in our industry. Also, you guys have heard of Yellow's bankruptcy. So Yellow Corp's terminals and the remaining assets, so their trucks, trailers, and other equipment that they have, will actually be auctioned off, and it will be online. It will be a timed auction and will be held by none other than the Ritchie Bros. And the Ritchie Bros auctioneers out of Orlando, Florida, will be holding this auction March 5th, 26th, April 16th, and May 7th, with opportunities also for in-person inspection prior to each event. Okay, so keep that in mind if you guys decide to go out there and buy some trucks and trailers. Again, when we're hitting these, low bottoming out of markets that we're currently seeing in a lot of places, it's an opportunity to look at some equipment for a little bit less than it may sell in normal times. Okay, and some other news again. Of course, we got to mention diesel prices. So the national average of diesel prices did fall 5.1 cents to $4.05, so $4.058 a gallon. Okay, so this is a decline, and it's the largest one so far of this year. Diesel did rise by 4.2 cents in the Rocky Mountains to $3.99 per gallon, but did fall in every other region. The biggest drop was found at 7.6%. Okay, 7.6 cents. And this was seen in the Gulf Coast region, where diesel is the lowest in the nation at 3.768 per gallon. And the national average price of gasoline did go down by 2 cents to $3.24 a gallon. Okay, so just so you guys are aware what diesel prices are looking at right now from that perspective. So yeah, there's a lot of things in the news. Out of all of this, honestly, the one that's most intriguing to me is this Convoy thing. These guys go on LinkedIn, they go on X, they go in other platforms, and they talk about how they're so great and so fancy and amazing, and they love their company and all this stuff. Meanwhile, people are being hurt on the side of this flaunting of their assets and their digital marketplaces and all this kind of stuff. And it's upsetting to me that this is happening because, again, I was a small trucking company, and I see how difficult it is to run a small company. Okay. The bills pile up, all this happens, and then you have bad industry players like Convoy, and Flexport is no different. They're being silent about all this. So they're actually telling you explicitly, they're telling you right now up front, with all this flaunting they're doing, that they opened up Convoy under their own little structure, and that 200 people, that they had dispatched 200 trucks. Okay. So they're pretty much telling you, like, hey, we're going to be just like Convoy. So if something goes wrong, we're just not going to pay whoever did our loads. Whatever outstanding bills we have, we're not going to pay. That's exactly what they're doing. And it's upsetting that this is happening. But hey, how is this new for any of us? We've been seeing this for a while now, of these trucking companies going down this route of just trucking companies, digital freight brokers going down this route of improperly, without ethics, without morals, running their businesses. And what comes to mind when I think of this? Back in October, when they decided to shut the doors, that is, cease operations, Convoy, their CEO came out and says, "Thank you, you guys are so awesome, thank you." So no mention of paying outstanding bills, no mention of taking care of their bills. Okay. I was in a similar situation, not shutting doors, but a situation where the gentleman that I was working with in a freight brokerage didn't pay carriers out of the corporate account, didn't pay them. And it was outstanding bills of thousands of dollars. I literally took money out of my personal statements to pay for these carriers. Reputation, don't forget this, guys. Reputation is everything in this industry. Okay? But doing it ethically, you know, how do I want my kids to be acting in the future? How do I want them to potentially take over my company? Okay, well, essentially, I'm building it so I could. If they have that will, that passion, that love for logistics that I do and transportation, I will gladly pass it down to them, no problem. But how do I expect them to act? If they see me doing this to carriers, screaming, yelling, swearing, being arrogant, like a lot of freight brokers do, digital and physical brokers, that's not going to go anywhere. You know, building a network. I always go back to Herb. You guys may have heard of ERB. So Herb was built by this one gentleman out of Canada, and Herb is a great example. The gentleman since has passed away recently, in a couple of years ago, but he built his entire network on trust, ethics, and moral. And he was so well respected. He actually helped other trucking companies make it in the industry. That's how good of a man this individual was. And he built a brokerage, an herb division brokerage, out of respect, ethics, morals, and all the things that we should build a business, foundational things off of. And he's a great prime example of how you should run a business. Check their story out. There are stories on Google out there that you can take a look, maybe even on YouTube. ERB, herb. It's a great case study to look at to see how you can structure your trucking company or your brokerage after. The way they treat their employees, okay, operations staff, salespeople, across the board. Okay, there's no way to take a look at it any other way from that perspective. Okay. Again, guys, hopefully this has been very helpful for you guys to just kind of take in as much new news as possible. You guys can connect with me on LinkedIn as well if you'd want to continue the conversation. You can find it in the links and comments after this video gets posted as a live event posting. You guys will be able to just click on the link and join me on LinkedIn and have a discussion. Of course, you can have a discussion openly if you'd like as well through the comment section of this video. You can email me. That's also in the links description as well. Again, my dad taught me that, and my mom, God rest her soul, she passed away a couple years ago. Just have a house in every village. Okay, this doesn't mean screw everybody along the way, make billions of dollars and buy everybody's house in every village across the world. It means be a respectful and humble human being that's actually going to be loving humanity as a whole. Actually, intrinsically having that love. So that way, when you show up somewhere, you have a door open. It could be a shipper, right? Don't burn bridges, guys. Don't burn bridges. Don't go out there thinking that you are the only thing that matters, because I can tell you right now, 100%, you are not the only thing that matters. There are a lot of things that are important in life. And as much as the journey from point A to point B is important, so is who gets you there and how you get there as well. So hopefully that's some word of advice that you can take from me moving forward. Thank you, guys. Midlife Trucker, respect. God bless. Thanks for the interactions in the live chat. And for all of you that end up watching this, respect. God bless. Check out some videos on the channel. There's a lot of things that could help your trucking company, a lot of things that can help your freight brokerage succeed in this otherwise crazy world that we live in. So thank you, guys.